Why America abandoned its greatest ever stadium, the dream in concrete and steel. Please subscribe my channel and share video with others. In the late 20th century, America was obsessed with building monuments to its sporting culture. From coast to coast, cities battled each other not only on the field, but also in architecture, racing to construct the biggest, most advanced stadiums in the world. And then came one project so bold, so extravagant that many hailed it as the greatest stadium America had ever built. It wasn't just a place for games, it was a symbol of power, technology, and national pride. With futuristic design, retractable roofs, state-of-the-art facilities, and capacity for hundreds of thousands, it was marketed as the Cathedral of Sport. For years, it drew in massive crowds, the roar of fans shaking the steel beams, and legends were born under its floodlights. But within a generation, that dream would collapse. Today, the stadium stands in silence, an abandoned giant, too expensive to demolish, too empty to save. When the stadium first opened, it became a global sensation. Presidents, celebrities, and even foreign leaders visited, marveling at the scale of America's engineering might. Inside, not only football, baseball, and concerts were hosted, but Olympic events, boxing matches, and even political conventions. It wasn't just a sports arena, it was a stage where America showcased its culture to the world. Every seat was filled. The stadium sold out events months in advance. Local businesses thrived. For a brief time, the stadium felt like the beating heart of American entertainment. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. The stadium was built with unprecedented ambition, but also with staggering costs. Maintenance ran into the millions every year. Its size, once its greatest selling point, became its biggest weakness. Newer, smaller stadiums with luxury boxes and modern fan experiences began to outshine the aging behemoth. Corporate sponsors pulled back, teams demanded upgrades, and suddenly, what had been a monument to progress began to feel like a relic of excess. As costs spiraled, whispers of corruption began to surface. Billions had been funneled into construction, but not all of it went where it should have. Politicians, contractors, and sports executives were implicated in scandals that tainted the stadium's reputation. What was once the pride of America was now being called a monument to greed. Fans started staying away, not just because of ticket prices, but because the stadium carried a shadow. It was no longer a place of joy, but of controversy. By the early 2000s, newer venues offered immersive fan experiences. Giant LED screens, digital replays, climate control, and high-end dining. The once mighty stadium couldn't keep up. Its massive size meant upgrades were astronomically expensive. One by one, teams abandoned it. Concerts moved elsewhere, the floodlights went out, and then came the moment nobody believed would happen. America's greatest stadium was officially closed. Today, the colossal structure still stands, looming over its city like a forgotten titan. Empty seats gather dust, hallways echo with silence. Nature is slowly reclaiming parts of it, vines creeping up the once glittering walls. Urban explorers sneak inside, capturing haunting footage of the stadium's remains. For some, it's a tragedy. For others, it's a lesson, a warning against unchecked ambition and the dangers of building bigger than necessary. What was once America's greatest stadium is now a ghost, abandoned but unforgettable. Even in its silence, the stadium's story continues to inspire debate. Should it be restored as a national landmark, torn down to make way for something new, or preserved as a ruin, a reminder of when America reached for greatness but fell to its own excess? The truth is, the stadium's spirit lives on, in the memories of fans who once cheered there, in the grainy footage of historic games, and in the cautionary tale it tells about ambition, pride, and the price of greatness. Because sometimes the greatest monuments are not the ones still standing, but the ones we abandoned. When the stadium was first proposed, the city was desperate to prove itself on the national stage. Local leaders promised jobs, tourism, and economic revival. Billboards declared it the future of sports. Residents voted for higher taxes, believing it would bring glory to their hometown. But what they didn't realize was that they weren't just building a stadium. They were building a financial monster that would outgrow the very city that birthed it. At first, its size was its pride, but soon it became its curse. Filling nearly 100,000 seats week after week proved impossible. Entire sections sat empty during games, making the stadium feel like a cavern. Smaller, sleeker venues began offering intimacy, luxury, and comfort. In contrast, this mega stadium felt cold, overwhelming, and outdated, long before its time. Beneath the headlines of glory and collapse lies another story: the workers who built it. Thousands of laborers toiled day and night, many underpaid, some injured, and a few who never returned home. For them, the abandoned stadium is not just concrete and steel, it is a graveyard of sacrifices no one remembers. To this day, locals whisper about shadows in the stands and strange sounds in the tunnels, fueling urban legends that the stadium is haunted by the very men who built it. Every empire has its last stand, and so did this stadium. On a rainy evening with only half the seats filled, a legendary team played the last official match within its walls. Players later described the eerie silence, the roar of the crowd replaced by echoes bouncing off empty sections. When the final whistle blew, fans wept, knowing they weren't just watching the end of a game, but the end of an era. After abandonment, the stadium didn't stay quiet for long. Thieves stripped copper wiring, vandals sprayed graffiti, and looters carried off seats as souvenirs. Some even tried to steal the massive scoreboard. The once proud cathedral of sport was reduced to a playground for scavengers and thrill-seekers. Videos online of its decaying halls went viral, turning the stadium into an internet legend, an icon of failure. Why hasn't America simply torn it down? The answer is money. Demolishing a megastructure of this scale would cost hundreds of millions, sometimes more than the cost of building a new stadium altogether. And so it remains, a billion-dollar question mark sitting on valuable land. Developers argue, politicians bicker, but the stadium still stands, caught between past glory and future uncertainty. In recent years, a small but passionate movement has grown, calls to restore the stadium. Architects have pitched wild ideas, turning it into a mega mall, a housing complex, even a futuristic sports tech hub. Yet each idea dies on the same battlefield: money. The stadium is too big to save, too expensive to rebuild, and too symbolic to destroy. And so it lingers, like Rome's Colosseum, a ruin that tells a story of power, ambition, and inevitable decline. Tourists sometimes visit just to snap photos of its crumbling walls. For older generations, it's a painful reminder of what was lost. For younger ones, it's a ghost they never knew but can't stop imagining. The stadium may be abandoned, but it is far from forgotten.